While I was doing research for my video on Alice Cooper to highlight his Christian faith, I came across a clip where he's talking about Marilyn Manson and his relationship with him. Now, for those who don't know, Marilyn Manson is one of the most evil rockers that are out there, and he's actually a priest in the Satanic Church. And so Alice is talking about his relationship with him, and in the video he talks about the fact that they've gone on tour together and they've actually recorded a studio song together. So I think this is a helpful video to talk about the question, if Alice is partnering with a satanic priest, can he actually be a true Christian? And so I want to deconstruct this question and let you know how I worked through it myself. Now first, there are two different questions, and it's very important we don't mix these up. The first question is, should a Christian partner with Marilyn Manson? And this question, often it can be answered in a binary way, yes or no. But then there's another question, and that's, can a Christian partner with Marilyn Manson and still be a Christian? And so that one often can't be answered in a binary way. There's more gray in it. So we need to first make a distinction between those two questions. Should he and can he? Now there are two truths that we have to hold together in tension about sin. The first is the fact that Christians, though we are freed from the power of sin, we still sin. We are not sinless. But then, on the other hand, we learn, especially in the book of 1 John, that when we walk in darkness, that is generally understood as a long-standing pattern of unrepentant sin. So we're not just sinning and repenting of it, but we're walking in unrighteousness. We are not repenting. We are not turning to the light. We are living in unrepentant sin. The Bible says that we're not true Christians, that we're living a lie. And so we have to hold those two things together. Now, it's important when we work through issues like this that we think about the person on the other side. What is the reason for what they're doing? Think about both charitable reasons of why they might be doing it, but also think of troubling reasons of why they might be doing such a thing. And so it's important to think through the different reasons, because that'll help us to answer our question. So the very first thing is it could be a sign of immaturity. A Christian could partner with Marilyn Manson and not know that they should not do such a thing. So immaturity in faith could be a reason for why they're doing that. Another option is they could have a very good reason for what they're doing that we might not know about or see. We're not privy to the relationship. We don't know the conversations that are having. We don't know what's being said, and so there could be a good reason that we just don't know about as spectators or viewers of the situation. Another thing we have to consider is we could be judging the issue wrong ourselves. And I mean, we generally don't want to think about that, but it's true. Like we could say, no, it's definitely a sin for a Christian to partner with Marilyn Manson, but we have to at least consider the possibility that we're judging the situation wrong. And even if you feel confident about that, at least to kind of temper that a little, you have to think about yourself in the past, especially if you've walked with Christ for many years or decades, and just ask yourself, have you ever said something is a sin or a Christian shouldn't do it and been wrong about it, and then realized in the future that you judged the issue wrongly? I know that I have, you probably have too. So at least entertain the possibility that you might be judging the situation wrong. And it works on the flip side too. You might say, no, a Christian can work with Marilyn Manson, and you might be judging that issue wrong as well. So make sure you leave the opportunity for you to be wrong as one of the possibilities. Another issue is this could be a defect in a person's spiritual life, which the Lord will discipline for them later. Now, this is important because, the Lord doesn't show us all of our sin and all of the things that we're doing wrong, or even things that are lacking wisdom all at once. He often disciplines us over time. And so a person can be a true believer and have this glaring issue in their life that the Lord will work on them over time and grow them in. That's definitely a possibility. But it's also a possibility that this is a sign of a deeper problem. That this is a sign that a person though they may be professing Christ, may not actually be in Christ. It may be a sign that they're not a true Christian. So we have to look over all the different options and consider them when we're looking to answer this question. Okay, so now that we have these different possibilities, we have to consider which one is probably true, which one is probably right. If we're going to answer the question, we need more information. And so if we were in a relationship with the person, we would just ask them, hey, what's your reason for doing this? Give me some more information. When we're judging a situation from afar, we need to hopefully that there's some clips or some interviews where where the person explains their reasoning. And in this case, we have it. So let's go ahead and listen to Alice explain his relationship with Marilyn and why he is doing what he's doing.
We are theologically miles apart.
Very true.
Me being a Christian and an active Christian, and him being a priest in the Satanic Church.
The Antichrist superstar.
The Antichrist superstar. So we've talked about that and everything.
Wow.
But very stylish. Very stylish. He got a great sense of style. And I don't want to blow his image, but he's a very nice guy. When we toured together, we got along really quite well. But if we went into theology, we'd be miles apart. And he came in. He said, "Can I come in?" Yeah. We sat down and we talked. We talked about marriage.
Okay.
We're in Transylvania. Castle Dracula is right over there, and we're talking about he just got divorced from
Dita, I guess.
Vantees, and I'd been married 35 years.
Yeah.
And we talked about marriage, and what it really. He says, everybody thinks this was a press marriage. It wasn't. He said, I really did not want this divorce to happen, and I went, wow, it's interesting, because you see different sides of people when you actually talk to them. And I'm, like everybody else, I bought into the image to an extent, because I know how it's built, But at the same time, we talked about real things, and that was interesting.
Hang out with these guys that you told me that you gave a Bible to Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
They respect you because you're you.
Now there's a few things I want to highlight from this clip. The first is that he doesn't gloss over the differences between him and Manson. He realizes that there's a big theological gap between them. He's not saying, oh, we're both agents of light or the darkness doesn't matter. No, he's acknowledging that there is a difference between them, and he's not glossing over that. And that's really important because it's usually a bad sign when people are not making distinctions between darkness and light, or they act like the darkness is not really a big deal and you just don't need to worry about it. But Alice is not doing that, and so that's actually a really good sign. The second is that we see that Alice has an evangelistic motive, and so we see this from the fact that he gave Marilyn Manson a Bible, and also that he values this open door relationship that he has with Manson to where they can have conversations about important things in life. And so here we kind of see some of the motives that Alice has for working together with Manson. So if we were to take Alice at his word and then apply charity to the situation, we would say that he probably views, being in the studio with Manson and going on tour with him as an opportunity to be around him, to have influence in his life and to have more conversations, more opportunities to be an influence for good in his life and to share the gospel of Christ with him. It's always important to apply charity whenever possible to a situation, to try to view things in the best possible light unless there is good evidence to the contrary. If a person has a bad history of lying or deception, or there's no reason to trust a person, then it's fine to have a little bit more skepticism. But if a person otherwise seems trustworthy and reliable, they say they're a Christian, they say they're doing things for a specific reason, we should take them at their word and believe them and apply charity to the situation. That's how we love people, and if there's no reason not to, that it should be a first response. Now, in closing, I'd like to give my own personal thoughts on this situation. I'd like to make 3 different points. The first is that I personally do not believe that a Christian should partner with Marilyn Manson. To me, this is yoking together darkness and light. And in this type of situation, I often think about how immature Christians view the situation. Paul was always concerned not just about what's right. For example, he said it was okay to eat meat sacrificed to idols, but he always was worried about the immature Christian and how they would understand the situation. And he didn't want to do things that would confuse them and possibly cause them to question or abandon their faith. And so I apply the same thing, and then I take the principle of not being yoked together with unbelievers. Now granted, in that situation where Paul's talking about in Corinthians, he's talking about marriage. And this is not quite the same type of yoke. I mean, you're not making a lifelong covenant together. You're, contractually working together for a set together or working together on a song, but it is still a yoke in some sense. I could be wrong on that, but I still am trying to apply the principle. And so I don't believe a Christian should do it. And I'm worried that an immature Christian will say, hey, you know what? I mean, Alice is a good Christian and he's a mature person in his faith. And if he's working together with Marilyn Manson, then it's probably okay for me to listen to Marilyn Manson. That type of logic doesn't entice me, but it might entice an immature Christian. And I am worried about them. So for those reasons, I don't believe that a Christian should partner with Marilyn Manson. The second thing is I do believe that Alice Cooper's motives are pure. I do believe he's doing things for the right reasons. I believe that he is drawing enough distinctions between him and Manson. He's not saying, hey, you know what, we're all in this spiritual journey. Oh, it's not a big deal. No, he has drawn distinctions to where he's saying, like, he recognizes that there is a big difference between him as a Christian and Marilyn Manson as a rocker satanic priest guy. And so I'm happy with those distinctions that he's drawn, and I do believe that he wants to be an influence for good in his life, which is commendable, and I do believe he's probably trying to emulate the life of Christ to dine with prostitutes and sinners, and so he probably thinks that he is acting like Jesus in what he's doing. And my final thought is that even though I disagree with Alice Cooper's decision in this, I can still be really thankful for it. I'm going to be honest. I mean, when I was a little kid, I bought a bunch of Marilyn Manson's albums. And then when I became a Christian, I spent many long prayer sessions praying for Marilyn Manson's salvation. And so to hear that Alice Cooper has had these good conversations with him, has an ongoing relationship with him, gave him a Bible for him to read, that's really exciting to me, and I'm really thankful for it. And so even though I wouldn't have done the same thing in this situation, I can be really thankful that God has placed Alice Cooper in his life, and I can pray that Marilyn Manson will open up his Bible, will heed the advice that Alice has said to him, and that God will draw him to himself. So that's my thoughts.